There's a new robot in town. The Segway Lumo is a personal mobile robot that you can control from your smartphone. I'm talking to Adam Bao from Segway about this robot.
So Loomo is at once a mini transporter. It's something that you can ride, but it's also a robot. It's a very mobile robot sidekick. So what can I do for you? Like I mentioned earlier, if folks are familiar with the Segways that are out and about, you can literally ride it around. For example, you can ride it to the park. Just take it on for a joyride or a spin. And then once you get off it, you can transform into a robot. And what does that do for you? Well, first of all, I just want to explain a little bit of the robotic functions. So usually robots have some form of AI. So it could be computer vision, voice recognition, etc. So ours is very computer vision focused. It can detect certain things, objects. It can recognize face. It can also track certain things. So something you could do with a robot is that once you get off the Segway and get into robot mode, you can have it track you and follow you around. And what does that do for you? Well, usually when you're riding to the park, you want to have fun. You don't want to have to lug around a Segway around with you. Even though it's 42 pounds, so it is doable, it's still a little bit heavy. But if you want to go hands-free and talk to your friend or greet someone, have the robot just follow you from by tracking you behind you, that's something that's very doable. You can capture video when it's following you around as well. And you can have fun with it.
Okay, well, how do people use Loomo?
Sure, yeah. So how about I start with, there's a bunch of different ways to control the robot. So for example, you can control it by touch. It's got a touch screen, a number of sensors on its head as well. You could use voice. You could use a smartphone app and some basic hand gestures too. So I'll give you an example of the voice function. So currently it's focused on key commands. So for example, you can have the robot transform using voice. You say Loomo transform from the transporting to a robot and back. You can also, one of my favorite features is actually a voice control. So when it's in robot mode, you can say, okay, Loomo, which makes it start listening to you. And then once it starts listening to you, you can say, let's go. And it'll look at you, it'll find you in a room, come up to you, spin around and turn into the transporter. So you can just ride it off into the sunset. So I quite like that. Some other features that we quite like, and all of the folks who've been testing on the robot really liked, one of them is called Avatar. And basically what that does is that you're able to control the robot using your smartphone, basically like a remote control. And you can move the robot around, move its head around. You can do text to speech. And basically you can type in what you want the robot to say, and it'll say it for you in a robot voice. So for example, if I were here with you and Jason or some other people in a room, and let's say Jason is hiding behind a rock, you can have the robot, you can control the robot discreetly, have it go up to Jason, just ask, Jason, why are you hiding over there? Like, what's going on with you? And obviously, like when I mentioned that it's like a remote control on your smartphone, you can basically see through a robot's eyes, because there's a camera that's built into the robot head itself. So you can basically see where the robot's going. That's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a number of features, right? Like I think these are some of the key ones. And one of the things that we noticed is that people really liked playing around with the robot for many reasons. One is because you don't really see many robots out on the streets. Most robots they're really cool. They're usually kind of small and at home on your tabletop. Or there might be robots that try to look human or try too hard to look human. But ours is, I believe, is quite differentiated because of the reason I explained earlier, but also because it's literally something that can be out and about with you wherever you go. Like some people don't like too much attention, but I think for this robot, as one of the early adopters to get it, you'll get some pretty big crowds. Like they'll be asking, hey, what is this thing? I've never seen this before. How does it follow you? I get asked that a lot just by doing some demos in New York and San Francisco. They also like it because, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't try too hard to be human. It's not as sinister. It's quite cute. It's almost like people say it's like a little pet, like a little dog. Even the way when it balances, kind of rocks a little bit, and then some like basic expressions on its face. But overall, it looks very lovable, and it's part of the overall appeal.
So it's a personal companion. Does that make it a substitute for a pet?
I don't think that we didn't design Lumo with that intention in mind. It's just something that people have given us feedback on. But for example, robots in general, the direction that they're going down in, many robots try to have emotion, have a so I'd say that for us looking ahead, I mean, certainly it's an area we'll be exploring further, making a robot having even more of a personality, being I guess, an entity that you can interact with and have fun with. I guess in that sense, we are trying to incorporate features that might make it more pet-like. But that wasn't what that wasn't the I suppose that wasn't the reason why we designed Lumo the way it is today. We weren't trying to make it into a pet.
Tell me about the Android-based SDK and how it works.
hmm Yeah, so Lumo comes with a free SDK, so the Lumo Robot SDK, which is built on Android. And it's so I guess a bit more about it is that it leverages the core mobility capability and also the AI, which again is focused on vision. So basically, you can leverage the robot platform that we have, the hardware, and then the SDK allows you to essentially control the robot and have it do everything that I mentioned and more. There's also a hardware extension bay at the very back, meaning that you can attach what's the right term in English? I guess hardware components to it. So it could be an arm, it could be something else, it could be an entire delivery box that you want to pull behind a robot. If you actually set it up and build it properly, and that's something that we're doing with a partner. So yeah, I mean, the SDK is something that most people are comfortable and familiar using because it's Android based. There's a lot of such developers out there, and if you get our SDK, you can sign up through our website to access some more materials that'll help you better understand how to use it. And yeah, we're pretty excited to see what people come up with and what kind of either new features they build by themselves, or also if we find a number of ones that are very meaningful, interesting, we'd be open to working together with them. But I think that should be really, really cool.
So I understand there's an active Indiegogo campaign. How much will the Lumo cost, and when will people get one delivered?
I mean, we are very focused on addressing early adopters and innovators. I mean, that's why we chose a platform like Indiegogo, because I think robot's very, very cool. But it's a good product, and it is ready. I mean, it's basically undergoing mass production right now, in a sense that we've set up all those capabilities. But we definitely want to work with a community. We want to build a community and get people engaged, excited, buy a robot, give us feedback, because we think that there's a lot more cool things we can build by ourselves, giving people's feedback. Or again, there might be ways to collaborate with other partners. I mentioned some of that before. Ultimately, we see this Lumo as not just a hardware product, but really a hardware software platform, because that's what it is. It's got really good hardware, and we have the software layer that allows hopefully multiple people and developers to help us kind of take it further.